Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. I have five big stories for you today. It's Friday, January 10th, 2025. It seems like nobody in charge of anything has any common sense these days. We're gonna from every story you see this. So if that was a theme, we just lack common sense. Okay, here, hundreds of Mexican firefighters arrived both today and yesterday in Southern California to assist with the ongoing wildfires in Los Angeles County. Now, most are with the National Forestry Commission and the Civil Relief Corps, among others coming from the Mexican Army. So it's a big thing. Now, I'm showing you this for a couple of reasons. One, we kind of created our own problems here with what the fires in California by some policies, redirecting water and things like not clearing out underbrush and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to belabor that. But then now we haven't contained anything yet. And the problem here is that in the very last days of the Biden administration and early days of the Trump administration, eyes are taken off the ball of what's going on in Ukraine because, this domestic thing is going to come first. Okay, so with that, I also saw this. This was a press conference where the LA fire chief says that Canadian super scooper airplane, the kind that picks up water from the ocean and dumps it on a fire, fighting wildfires, was hit by a drone yesterday. Okay, so a couple of things about that. First, thank you, Canada, for lending a drone in spite of all the weird rhetoric about absorbing Canada or annexing as a 51st state. So thank you for that. And then second, there's a lot going on in social media talking about how, ooh, was this nefarious? It was probably a hobbyist, but you can understand why people might be concerned. Okay, there is no such thing as a perfect name for a firefighter. Now, I don't know if this is made up or an actual clip, but Lieutenant Les McBurney, that's freaking awesome if he's actually a firefighter. So I'm not going to go research to see if that's a legitimate thing or not, but it's just kind of funny. Okay, now, next big story. A Wagner mercenary was captured while attempting to cross the river on the Mexican border into Texas, armed with a drone, two passports, and $4,000 cash. What is going on here? And this is the kind of thing that make people worried because of like, hey, why does he have a drone? What's he going to do with it? What's he going to see, or where's he going to? Right? Okay, let's listen.
Interpol arrested a former Russian mercenary on Saturday when he waded across the Rio Grande near Roma. This is an NBC 23 exclusive report. A federal prosecutor told a judge on Tuesday this defendant has no immigration or criminal history. However, he admitted moments ago on the record that he is a former mercenary. This defendant crossed into the United States with two passports, one from Kazakhstan and one from Russia. The defendant was also in possession of a drone in his backpack, and he admitted when interviewed to being a member of the Wagner Group. Now, the Wagner Group is a paramilitary organization affiliated with the Russian government and has been sanctioned by the United States. The organization has been involved in mass executions, child rape, and other crimes in Africa, and it has also participated in the invasion of Ukraine. It's not clear if Praliev did for Wagner what he did or why he crossed the border or what he planned to do with that drone. Praliev is charged with illegally crossing the border, a federal misdemeanor. A judge sentenced him to time served. Now, Praliev, though, is unlikely to be released. He'll probably remain in federal custody until he is deported.
Don't know why he's here. We don't know any more than what you just saw, but you should be aware that that kind of thing has happened. Okay, now let's turn our attention to Europe. The EU delivers its first 3 billion euro loan from the G7 loan to Ukraine. The European Union has made the first payment of this 3 billion almost 3 years ago. This is van der Leyen saying this almost 3 years ago. 3 years into the Russian war of aggression, Ukraine can keep on counting on its friends and partners. Today, we deliver 3 billion euros to Ukraine, the first payment of the EU part of the G7 loan. Okay, so while that's happening in Norway, or well, with Norway rather, this is Ukraine's defense minister, Rusim Umerov, talking about how as part of the Ramstein meeting, I met with Norway's Minister of Defense. These agreements will elevate our cooperation to a new level. Norway will allocate its largest military aid package in history for Ukraine, over 2 billion euros. So thank you to Norway. That's pretty awesome. But Scholz does not necessarily agree with a new large aid package proposed by his foreign minister, and that's going to be problematic. Scholz has blocked a $3 billion military aid package for Ukraine proposed by the foreign and defense ministries, despite Ukraine's ongoing need for support. His office argues there is no urgent necessity for the package, claiming current aid will suffice. So Scholz is kind of taking a position. I think I think this is political, trying to make sure that he's threading a needle to stay in power before his upcoming election. But yeah, okay. At any rate, meanwhile, Italy's Prime Minister Meloni seems to have pulled a diplomatic rabbit out of a hat just ahead of Trump's inauguration. She gets along swimmingly with Donald Trump. Here's a little bit of the article. Ukraine's sole supporter and Trump's right-wing Euro clique scores a win. So this is talking about her meeting in Mar-a-Lago. It would be surprising if the timing of Meloni's trip to visit U.S. President-elect Donald Trump at his Florida resort this past weekend was purely coincidental. Neither Trump nor Meloni revealed the nature of their dinner table discussion on Saturday. The Italian prime minister said she walked away from it satisfied and appreciated the climate of reciprocity. Now, they were talking about other things as well because they have different agendas. It's not just Ukraine, but she is all in support of Ukraine. Meloni would appear to have Trump's ear, which would make her the one right-wing leader in Europe who staunchly supports Ukraine and also has a seat of honor at the incoming American administration's table. The 47-year-old Italian prime minister has charmed Trump's inner circle with her smile and rare brand of continental conservatism. If and how Trump's team addressed Meloni's dilemma, could she shed some much needed light on what America First champions' appetite for international cooperation may be? So far, world leaders are puzzled. Last Tuesday, Trump held this press conference in his Florida resort where he was sketching out his foreign policy positions. Annexing Canada, I talked about that 2 days ago, or forcing Denmark to sell him Greenland, and I just talked about that in this video here, just my very last video, so you can go back to that. I'm not going to go back over that same thing again, but it looks like Meloni's actually having some kind of positive effect. Now let's talk about Trump's theoretical plans to meet with Putin.
A ton of world leaders have called you as well. We understand still no call with Putin. Is that a day one or week one call?
No, he wants to meet, and we're setting it up. President Xi, we've had a lot of communication, and we have a lot of meetings set up with a lot of people. Some have come, but I'd rather wait till after the 20th.
Okay, so he's maintaining that Putin still wants to meet. Dmitry Peskov saying that Putin is ready for talks with Trump. No preconditions for this are required, only mutual willingness, political will, and readiness to dialogue. So theoretically, Putin wants to meet, but I don't think Putin wants to settle anything anytime soon. Here, the ISW says sources in the Russian presidential administration, State Duma, and wider Russian federal government and regional governments told Russian opposition media outlet Meduza Project that Russian elites are increasingly disappointed and tired of waiting for the war to end and are growing increasingly concerned about the long-term impact of Western sanctions on the Russian economy. And that would lead you to think that they want the war to end, like they want a peace deal. But that's not what they're saying. High-ranking Russian security officials appear to be assessing that Russia needs to intensify the war in Ukraine rather than seek an exit through negotiations. They have a different perception. Russian elites reported diagnosis of the main problem with Russia's conduct of the war is inaccurate, as Russia's failure to restore maneuver on the battlefield, not a shortage of manpower, and that's the main factor causing Russia's relatively slow rate of advance. Well, they just want to intensify things and get things, they want to end it, but they want to end it by intensifying things. So that's where they are. So I don't see any kind of peace settlement happening anytime soon. Darth Putin, the parody site, says day 100 or 1052 of my 3-day war. Trump said that he would end the war in 24 hours. Now he says 6 months. I shall therefore make a nuclear threat that will amuse you. I remain master strategist. Okay, now next and last big story. The Supreme Court has denied Trump's motion to delay his felony conviction sentencing in New York. And today, Judge Merchant sentenced Donald Trump in his hush money case, but declined to impose any punishment, which is exactly what I said would happen just 2 or 3 days ago. So, President-elect Donald Trump was formally sentenced Friday in his hush money case, but the judge declined to impose any punishment. The outcome cements Trump's conviction while freeing him to return to the White House unencumbered by the threat of jail term or a fine. Okay, So what just happened? He is now a felon. He's been sentenced as that, but he's waiving the sentence because judges tend to not want to get in the way of constitutional kind of issues of, well, can he actually be in power, or will he have to serve as, like, the American people have adjudicated on whether he was fit to be president. So the judge is not trying to impose himself between that and the people's vote. So that's what happened here. That's the best way to explain it. So Manhattan Judge Merchant could have sentenced the 78-year-old to up to 4 years in prison. Instead, he chose a sentence that sidestepped the thorny constitutional issues by effectively ending the case, but assured that Trump will become the first president convicted of a felony to assume the presidency. What did Trump say during the hearing? Trump said that his criminal trial and conviction has been a very terrible experience and insisted that he committed no crime. And again, if you're on that side of the spectrum, you're looking at it thinking this is lawfare. They're weaponizing the court against Trump, and it's only because of Trump. And if you're on the other side of the spectrum, you're probably thinking, yeah, but he did it, and he's probably getting away with something, and nobody's above the law. Now, I'm just trying to explain how people are seeing it and why it's happened the way that it has. So that's essentially the story. Trump's officially a felon, but he's not going to jail. So last little bit, I just wanted to show you a clip because it's kind of a metaphor for what's going on in society today.
I can feel my own cooling. I can feel my own cooling.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir? Hey.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be doing that.
You know, I have a boyfriend. You don't need to be talking to me. I know what to do with my car. Thank you.
It's almost a metaphor for what leaders all around the world seem to be doing these days. All right, my friends, that's all that I have. Thank you for the likes and the shares and the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.